This is a life and timeline analysis for Mary Ainsworth presented by Maiya Sabbir. To start, who was Mary Ainsworth? She was an American-Canadian developmental psychologist born on December 1st, 1913. Her most known contributions to developmental psychology is her work involving mother-infant relationships and attachment theory. In developmental psychology, attachment theory refers to the theory that when children are born, they present a need for close emotional bonds with their parents and caregivers. These bonds will typically develop during the first 6 months of an infant's life. Detachment theory was developed and researched by the British psychologist John Bowlby, who had a close working relationship with the Ainsworth. Mary Ainsworth went on to die on March 21, 1999. To begin with Mary Ainsworth's life, we focus on her birth. She was born on March 1st, 1913, as previously stated, in Glendale, Ohio. During 1913, President William Taft also signed legislation to create the Department of Commerce, which provided opportunities to all communities and promoted economic growth. During 1914 to 1918, World War I occurred, and this war was a turning point for psychology. New positions for psychology were now available in institutes of technology and commercial academies. There were also more uses of psychology due to the effects caused by the war and the need of studying those effects. From 1927 to 1929, Ainsworth had been inspired by the American psychologist William McDougall. This began her study of psychology, leading her to enroll at the University of Toronto as one of the only 5 students to be accepted into the honors course in psychology. During this time, the Great Depression was also occurring, and Ainsworth hoped to improve lives around her with the career path she had chosen. In 1935, she earned her BA, and in 1936, she earned her MA, both in psychology at the University of Toronto. In 1936, Ainsworth began her mentorship under Blatz. 1939 proved to be a busy year. While Ainsworth was earning her PhD in developmental psychology, the Great Depression was ending, affecting many families and dynamics that could have led to Ainsworth's study of mother-infant relationships. This was also the year of World War II. World War II brought many changes to Ainsworth's life. She had joined the Canadian Women's Army Corps and was appointed Director of Personnel Selection in 1942. Her position allowed her to gain more knowledge in the clinical psychology field. After the end of World War II at 1945, there was more funding of mental health services and more need of clinical psychology. In 1946, she returned to Toronto to teach personality psychology, and in 1950, she married Leonard Ainsworth and moved to London. This was also the year Ainsworth began working with John Bowlby at the Tavistock Clinic to research mother-infant relationships. In 1954, she moved to Kampala, Uganda to do her first mother-infant observation and carry out her longitudinal field study. In 1958, she taught at Johns Hopkins University as an associate professor of developmental psychology. She began her work with John Bowlby to develop the theory of attachment. After her divorce in 1960, she underwent therapy that piqued her interest in psychoanalytical theory. In 1965, Ainsworth began her strange situation experiments and published Child Care and Growth of the Love. In 1967, she published Infancy in Uganda, detailing her investigation of mother-infant relationships in Uganda. The strange situation experiment observed children between the ages of 12 to 18 months. They were briefly left alone in a room with a stranger, and their reactions towards the caregivers were assessed and recorded after the caregiver returned. This experiment assessed how a child would react in the presence of their caregiver, in the caregiver's absence, and in the presence of a stranger. how a child behaved during their separation from their caregiver and how they behave upon their return revealed what type of attachment style the child had formed. This research allowed psychologists to explore importance of early childhood attachments in child development and how it can affect relationships later in life. Ainsworth proposed 3 attachment styles. Those with secure felt distressed when separated from caregiver, easily soothed upon return, and had a preference for the caregiver over the stranger. In anxious-resistant children, they show little reaction when caregiver left, did not want contact upon return, and had little preference for caregiver over stranger. Anxious avoidant children were severely distressed when caregiver left, not easily soothed upon return, and showed to be wary of strangers. In 1975, Ainsworth was teaching again, this time at the University of Virginia, until the year of 1984. She published Patterns of Attachment in 1978, which was a report of her Baltimore longitudinal study and the Strange Situation experiment. She received the G. Stanley Hall Award for Developmental Psychology in 1984, the Award for Distinguished Contributions for Child Development in 1985, and the Distinguished Scientific Contribution Award in 1989. Ainsworth died on March 21, 1999, due to a stroke. This is a more detailed timeline of world events during Ainsworth's lifetime. Thank you.